people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. You may have heard earlier today that MVP has signed former world champion Ebanie Bridges to their roster of premier fighters. I originally heard this rumor last week, I think it was, but now it's confirmed. MVP signs former world champion Ebanie Bridges. New mother and former world champion Eyes return to the ring later on this year after giving birth in February. MVP today announced the signing of former IBF bantamweight champion Ebanie Bridges, the Blonde Bomber, 9-2 with 4 KOs, to its growing roster of elite talent. The addition of Bridges underscores MVP's continued commitment to elevating women's boxing and building the sport's most dynamic, engaging fight cards. Bridges welcomed her first child in February of this year and is targeting a return to the ring later on this year as she looks to reclaim her world title.
Can she do it?
Ebanie Bridges is both ambitious inside and outside of the ring. She holds a master's degree in mathematics and education, speaks 3 languages, is a qualified mechanic, a black belt in karate, and a savvy investor and businesswoman. Ebanie has built a powerful personal brand while using her platform and resources to support other women in boxing. She lives a life rooted in gratitude and humility, often speaking out on key societal and cultural issues. Another fighter that used to be promoted by Matchroom is now being promoted by MVP. Originally a high school math teacher from New South Wales, Australia, Ebanie left the classroom to chase her dream of becoming a world champion boxer in the UK, a dream she proudly realized by becoming the IBF bantamweight world champion 3 years ago in 2022. Now, a mother, Ebanie is on a new mission to reclaim her world title and inspire women in the sport to return stronger after childbirth and prove that nothing is impossible. From working as a boxing ring girl to becoming a world champion in the sport, Ebanie's journey embodies perseverance and purpose. With her infectious personality and fearless mindset, she empowers people from all walks of life to believe in themselves and pursue their goals unapologetically.
A free spirit.
I'm very excited about signing with MVP. They've done amazing things for women's boxing in such a short time, said Bridges. Proud to be joining a star-studded stable full of champions, current, former, and future world champions. I love and appreciate that MVP are truly investing in women's boxing for the right reasons. I believe that MVP, with their backing, promotion, and clever marketing, myself and women's boxing will truly skyrocket.
Ebanie Bridges is a star.
In every sense of the word, said Jake Paul and Nikisa Badarian, co-founders of MVP. She is a world champion, a proven ticket seller, and a force of personality who brings new audiences into boxing. Now a devoted mother, on a mission to reclaim her title, she continues to break boundaries both in and outside the ring. We are thrilled to welcome another Aussie to the MVP family and can't wait to help her take her career to even greater heights. Another Aussie, who was the first. Shernika Johnson, technically, except that Shernika Johnson was actually born in New Zealand, though she resides in Australia. What can MVP do for Ebanie Bridges, and at her advanced age, at least advanced for the sport of boxing, is there any hope of becoming a 2-time world champion? I would say there is, and that's not optimism talking.
I see a way for her to do it.
So the first order of business is getting Ebanie Bridges a comeback fight, and I mean an easy comeback fight, a gimme fight. Something to get her back in the winner's bracket since she never rebounded off the shock upset loss to Miyo Yoshida. She needs an easy fight.
Then one more.
She hasn't fought in a year and a half, you understand that? That she hasn't fought since December of 2023. So just one fight, one tune-up fight, is not going to be enough to get her ready to fight for a title.
She needs two.
And ideally, the both of those fights would happen before this year is out. We're not talking about big fights against big-name opponents. We're talking about low-level fights that you can have on a prelim card.
She needs two.
Two in the interim. I don't know that Ebanie Bridges, at her age, can get back down to 118 pounds. Maybe she can, maybe she can't. If she can't, she can come back at 122. There is an area of opportunity at the both of those weights, irrespective of where she comes back. We're very close to seeing an inaugural undisputed champion crowned at 118, and we're also close to seeing that happen at 122.
At 118, I think it's going to be Shernika Johnson after this weekend. At 122, I think it's going to be Ellie Scottney by the time this year ends.
Where does Ebanie fit into that picture?
She could either fight those fighters when the time comes after she's had the necessary tune-up fights and after they become undisputed champions at some point next year, or she can wait them out.
Huh?
She can wait them out in the interests of taking the most secure path to a title. After Shernika Johnson becomes undisputed at bantamweight, there won't be much reason for her to stay there. The title she holds may go vacant, and Ebanie can pick one of them up. The same applies to Ellie Scottney at 122.
After she becomes an undisputed champion, there won't be much reason for Ellie to stay there. She may move up to feather, at which point the title she holds will go vacant and Ebanie can pick one or some of them up.
That's her best bet to become a two-time world champion.
The safest bet, because if she has to fight either of those fighters, I don't really like her chances against Shernika at this point, and I don't really like her chances against Ellie.
She can roll the dice with them, try her luck, and try her best, but at this point, I think they both beat her.
I think her best bet to become a world champion at this point would be to wait out the situation a bit, but still keep busy and fight for a vacant title once one becomes vacant.
Congratulations to her for returning to the sport and signing to MVP. Most of what I said is largely speculative, so we'll see how this actually breaks down when the time comes.
Men's welterweight news. Jaron Boots Ennis has vacated his IBF welterweight title. Now that he is ascending to the junior middleweight division, Jaron Ennis has officially begun his departure from the welterweight division. This news is not a surprise. Ennis, 34-0 with 30 KOs, confirmed his move from welterweight to junior middle in a social media post a few weeks ago. The newest IBF ratings, released on July 7th, show that Ennis no longer holds the title. The 28-year-old from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, won the interim IBF belt in January of 2023, 2 years ago, with a shutout of Karen Chukadzian and knocked out Roman Villa in 10 rounds that July. Although Terence Crawford unified all 4 titles 3 weeks later with his stellar stoppage of Errol Spence Jr., Crawford never fought again at 147. And so Ennis was upgraded to the full IBF title holder in November of that same year. He made 3 defenses, a 5-round stoppage of David Avanesian in July of last year, a unanimous decision in a more competitive rematch with Karen Chukadzian in November, and a 6-round beating of Amantis Stanionis this past April to unify the IBF and WBA titles and the vacant Ring Magazine Championship. The WBA website still lists Ennis as holding its title. Its ratings were last updated on July 1st. Rolly Romero is the WBA's secondary, regular title holder by virtue of his May decision win over Ryan Garcia. He would be upgraded to full champion upon Ennis's departure.
A testament to what a joke today's welterweight division is, and what a joke the American boxing scene is, that Rolly, by beating a guy who did absolutely nothing at welter, is now in line to become full champion ahead of their mandatory challenger, Shakram Gayasov,
who's been there the whole time. As for the IBF title, it is possible that the as-yet unscheduled rematch between Lewis Crocker, ranked at number 1, and Paddy Donovan, ranked at number 3, with the number 2 spot vacant, would no longer be a final eliminator, but instead would be for the full IBF title.
The landscape is changing.
Reigning WBO welterweight champion Brian Norman had this and that to say about Jaron Ennis, the timing of his move to the junior middleweight division, and what would have been the fight between them.
It's the fact that we were supposed to be fighting after this fight. I don't know if y'all remember that. Eddie Hearn went publicly talking about how we had dodged the contract, dodged the fight. When I don't see how we dodged the fight when all we simply said was we won't sign a contract before my Jin Sasaki fight, but we can talk literally right after. So why on fight week they not made one but two announcements talking about he moving up, and one on literally the day before my fight. We were supposed to be fighting after this. So if I would have signed that contract, what would have happened? That's how I feel about it. What would have happened if I did sign that contract? Would we have still fought, or would you still moved up? So it's just like we could have been fighting right now, but no, I got to fight Devin Haney and get this thing done. So now I ain't finna stop my rodeo just for another man.
Few passing thoughts. Brian paints a picture of Boots' abrupt departure from the welterweight division as if Boots hadn't spent the last year or so trying to get him in the ring.
The last time they tried to get it locked in, you wouldn't commit. You and your team told them you wouldn't commit to anything until after the Jin Sasaki fight.
And this is after over a year of trying to get you in the ring, playing phone tag the way that American fighters often do the whole time. Boots' body is busting at the seams. It's screaming at him to move up. So once they saw you were non-committal, they decided to stop wasting time on you. It's not hard to put together.
What do you expect us to believe, Brian?
Oh, that the offer from Matchroom last year, it wasn't serious. They weren't for real about unifying titles.
Then how did Boots end up unifying with Stanionis?
How did that happen if Matchroom and Boots and Eddie weren't serious about unification matches? It would seem that you were the ones that weren't serious, and if the fight didn't happen, you guys said it yourself, it came down to money. You wanted more of it than Matchroom was willing to spend.
You wanted a dollar amount that didn't make a lot of sense.
I don't want to be long-winded. The short version of the story is, you priced yourselves out. That's all it ever was. That's all it is.
You priced yourselves out.
And where Brian Norman Jr. seems to have lucked out is that Turkey LL Sheik has taken interest in him.
He got lucky.
Damn lucky, if I say so myself, because I was convinced that the rest of the welterweight division, they were going to freeze Brian Norman out.
He got lucky.
How'd it happen? Well, remember Top Rank's current situation with ESPN that is still quite nebulous.
We still don't know who Top Rank's broadcast partner or broadcast partners are going to be moving forward. So while they sort all of that out, they're loaning out one or some of their fighters. They're loaning out Brian Norman to a Ring Magazine show.
That's one.
Loaning out Brian Norman to a Ring Magazine show enables Top Rank to keep their fighter busy while at the same time turn over a profit from that fighter, since they're not the ones spending any money on his next fight. All they have to do is sit back and collect their cut from his fight purse because Turkey's the one paying him. So that's one.
What's two?
Bit of desperation and seemingly a death wish from the Haneys, who've grown desperate after the collapse of both the Ryan Garcia rematch and what was supposed to be the Teofimo Lopez fight.
They're desperate. To make the kind of money they want to make, they gotta fight somebody. And the only one who's gonna pay them the way they want to be paid is Turkey. To see that Turkey is about done coddling you guys. He gave you a tune-up fight in Jose Ramirez. Now it's time for things to get serious. This is how Brian Norman Jr. lucked out. The stars aligned at the right time.
The way he needed them to.
Because if not for Turkey taking an interest in this guy, we don't know when he would have fought again. Not if it was just down to Top Rank.
Top Rank's got their own problems.
And not if it were just down to the welterweight division. The welterweight division as it is, I was convinced Brian Norman was going to get frozen out. He got lucky.
Damn lucky.
Now he has to make the most of this opportunity. I actually want him to win. I want him to stop Devin Haney. So when it comes to the boot stuff, it's simple. You priced yourself out. That's what it was. That's what it is. End of.
Make the most of this opportunity.
Stop trying to rewrite history about what happened with Boots. We all know what happened with Boots. You asked for too much money.
I got a phone call about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, go on.
Deontay Wilder turned down the fight.
Yeah,
Anderson turned down the fight.
yeah.
and AJ trying to fight 4 times in the last month.
Yeah.
So right now they want me to be a little nicer because guys are scared. Now,
And then I come back to my point again now. AJ offered you a fight the first time. Let me finish. Second time, I offered you a fight. Let me finish. Third time, Fabio Wardley offered you a fight. Let me finish. And now you're here crying that you want a fight with other Fabio, AJ, and all these guys. Yeah? But the only person who's fucked up is yourself. Because every time you've been offered a fight, and then when you got to fight, let me finish. When you got to fight a British fighter, yeah, you lost. And then you came up with excuses. So tell me, yeah, this is what I want to say here.
I'm making finish.
Listen, all I want to say to you, yeah, man, at United Kingdom, bro, we hold shit down, bro.
Derek Chisora recently caught up with Jarrell Miller, and in so many words, he put him in his place. Everything he said was true, and some things that he didn't. Every time Jarrell Miller was afforded an opportunity, and every time it fell apart, it was due to something on Miller's end, not the other way around. Nobody's afraid of him. The British guys ain't running. You just have a lack of accountability, and that's all it boils down to. That's all it is when it comes to the American boxer. Not dissimilar to what we just talked about with Brian Norman and all of his elaborate explanations. The reason a fight between you and Boots didn't happen was because you turned it down.
That's it.
And the reason that Miller has been afforded all these opportunities that did not materialize is because he's always got some bullshit going on his side of it. We all know why the AJ fight fell apart, because you popped hot for all of those drugs.
Should have timed your cycle better.
And that's the exact same reason that after Top Rank picked him up, he never got to make his Top Rank debut, because before that happened, he tested positive for drugs again.
Should have timed your cycle better.
Derek afforded you a fight, and then it fell apart because of your promotional issues with Dimitri Salita. Fabio Wardley was gonna fight you recently.
What happened that time?
I'm not even sure, but Justice Hooney ended up standing in his place, so it just is what it is. You can't blame the Brits for the fights you're not having. It's a little more than just a commentary on the United Kingdom and the United States and how the fighters differ from each other. It's the overall lack of accountability from the Americans.
They act like a bunch of little boys.
When somebody calls Shakur Stevenson a boring fighter on more than one occasion, he tries to make it everybody else's fault.
Bob Arum, Top Rank, racism.
Teofimo Lopez shoots himself in the foot on more than one occasion, and he fancies himself a philosopher.
It's all philosophical because he's an idiot.
Brian Norman spends the better portion of a year rejecting offers to fight Jaron Ennis, so that when Ennis finally decides it's time to move up, you can make things his fault. Oh, it's his fault that we didn't fight.
What?
Jarrell Miller, you've been afforded opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and there's always something going on your side.
You're not a little kid.
What accents being an adult. Moreover, what accents being a man is taking accountability.
Take some responsibility. Nobody's running from you.
That's why the American fighter seems more and more like a little boy, like a child,
A petulant child.
a mouthy child, in a sport full of men. Grown men! The American fighters seem to think they've got boyish charm while playing phone tag with each other and wasting time.